are you, Andy?
Hi, how are you? By the way, I appreciate you have the most professional looking setup.
Okay.
That makes me happy. There's a microphone, there's headphones. I feel like I'm just talking into my computer speakers, feeling like a bad director.
Smoke and mirrors, Andy. Smoke and mirrors. So don't.
By the way, you're talking to the guy who understands smoke and mirrors.
Okay. Andy, first off, I really enjoyed One True Loves, but I want to just start rewind a little bit. I was looking at a past interview and you were talking about being mentored. We're both Gen Xers. You were talking about being mentored by Gene Wilder, Bette Midler, and then you mentioned Gary Marshall. Mount Rushmore of artists right there. How has that bled into how you are today as an artist? And then I guess maybe also mentoring others. So,
it's really interesting because having my first development job in Hollywood be Gene Wilder, and it was when I was starting to direct theater, and every day I'd be with Gene and to ask him questions, both he's a director, he's a writer, a producer, and a brilliant actor. And when I went to work with Bette, doing development, eventually I got to direct her in parental guidance. So having been her employee to having been the one on set directing her, the mentorship was unbelievable. Gary Marshall, every opportunity I got that I could go have a meal with him and sit and talk to him. And at Disney, I was editing a film and there's a Gary Marshall bench outside of editorial. And it's got his name on it and in his honor for all that he'd done for everybody. And I would call him when I'd have a mind break and I'd say, Gary, question. I'm outside. I need a break. Can I sit on your bench today? And Gary would rifle through pages. He's like, it's 1:10. Hold on. Someone's coming at 1:20. If you can sit on it now, you have 8 minutes to enjoy my bench. And Dick Donner, who his wife Lauren Schiller Donner had produced She's the Man, and Dick had been a tremendous support vehicle for me. The opportunity to learn from these giants. I remember when we were doing You Again and having Betty White and Sigourney Weaver and Jamie Lee Curtis. And, during downtime, my favorite thing is I just become a fan. And I would sit with Betty White and I was like, okay, now I have 800 questions about Mary Tyler Moore's show. And she would tell me these stories. And I feel like all I wanted to do was go have a podcast, immediately leave and go get online and tell people Betty said this. And I feel the responsibility. So by the time you get to something like One True Loves, by the way, same thing. I had Michael O'Keefe, who Caddyshack was such an important movie for me. And the whole time I'm like, just be cool. Just be cool. And then I'm like, he's got an Academy Award nomination for Great Santini. I'm like, don't blow this. Just talk to him. Just be cool. And I always loved, he did that pirate movie, Nate and Hayes. And I always loved that with Tommy Lee Jones and Jenny Seagrove. And then there's Lauren Tom. So many times when I have somebody whose career has just blown me away, I'd have to remind myself we're on One True Loves. And then eventually Michael would be surrounded by everybody. And we're all like, okay. During Caddyshack, during the scene with the baby Ruth in the swimming pool, and Michael was just such a raconteur and so lovely. So I feel history for the entertainment industry is what should guide us, because those who came before us blazed a trail. And I wouldn't sit here if I wasn't a kid watching Willy Wonka or watching Young Frankenstein or watching Blazing Saddles. I wouldn't be here if I hadn't watched Caddyshack. Who knows what I would have done, but those movies left an impression for me. So when someone says, oh, they just watched She's the Man again and it still makes them laugh, or my family liked the game plan, or so, it makes me happy because I feel like maybe I'm having similar connections for other generations.
Speaking of connecting generations, Andy, the fact that you mentioned Lauren Tom, I mean, since we're a year apart, we both know how big of a deal the Joy Luck Club was for us. Now, the fact that you're casting Lauren Tom, and then you have 2 of your 3 leads, Asian leads. I mean, it might not be a big deal to cinephiles who are much younger than us, but we kind of know the subtext about it, and people should enjoy your film on that escapist fare level as well. But can you speak to that? I just think that's great. You're putting a lot of subtext into your project.
You know, when we started working on this, we decided straight up we would always be colorblind casting, because let the right actor be the right actor. Don't lock yourself away. And I had done that previously on our Disney Channel movie Christmas Again, Scarlett Estevez, which led to a very Latino-based kind of cast that we went with after we cast her. Here, I met with dozens of brilliant actors, and anyone could have been great. I met Philippa Soo, and she was the only person that when I got off, I texted all the producers and I said, hey, I just finally met Emma. And once I knew that, then it became with Taylor, who had written the book, and she and Alex were doing the adaptation, her husband, of the script. How do we make Philippa Emma correctly? How do we do that? How do we honor that? And so when we would start talking to her about her family and what her family dynamic was, we were able to build that way and try to mirror her family as much as possible. And that combination of when we started looking and we were like, all of a sudden, Lauren Tom, and you're right, Joy Luck Club was such a monumental moment when it happened for cinephiles, and for giving the opportunity for Asian actors and actresses who had not been given proper opportunity to actually be the soul heart of the movie. And that audiences were like, I love that movie. So I had just worshipped her, and then had the biggest crush on her during Friends. And then constantly it was like, who can I get? And then when they were like, Lauren is interested, and I talked to her, she laughed in about 2 seconds and I was melted and gone. And then when we were trying to find the sister, Michaela was somebody, Conlon, who I just thought was such a brilliant actress. I'd loved her on Bones. And that came together. And all of a sudden we had this family that felt so perfect. And then we started looking for Sam. And again, by chance, Shang-Chi had not come out yet. Sarah Finn, our casting director, who does all the Marvel movies, knew him because of it. But she had also done She's the Man. So we always had a good working language. And she said, there's an actor coming out in a movie in a while called Shang-Chi. Simu Liu. And I was like, oh, you don't understand. Kim's Convenience is one of my favorite shows. So she's like, you know Kim's Convenience? I was like, I don't know why people don't know Kim's Convenience. It's brilliant. So when we got on the phone to Zoom, I think Simu thought it was bullshit that I knew Kim's Convenience, because he's like, I think he just thought it was like, that feels like a line. And then I start talking to him season by season and episode by episode. And then I think he got worried that I was like a stalker. But then he's like, okay, calm down with your Kim's Convenience. I get it. Yeah, I don't know the answer to why that happened. But I think when you take a step back and you go, we cast the perfect actors for this movie. And Simu said something to me that I thought was so profound. He's like, you cast me in a romantic lead that wasn't on the page saying you need to go find this guy who's Chinese Canadian. Like, that's what the character is described. That's not how he's described in the book. And I believe that is our responsibility as storytellers, is to put great people in roles and keep diversity alive, so it doesn't just feel like you're checking a box, but that you're really providing. And I look back in editorial and I'm like, I wouldn't change a single thing about this casting at all. All of these people have made me a better director just working with them.
I maybe I'm reading in a little bit too much, but I really appreciated how One True Loves, you also showed how one can have fire and passion for traveling the world, maybe leaving your family behind and seeing all the cultures you can see, but then also having the same amount of fire for your family and staying home. And what seems as provincial is it's really not. It could be an adventure in and of itself. Can you just talk about that theme?
Oh, I love that you found that you were reading the right amount into it, which is life is, it's always unfair to me I have 2 kids. So I know what having 2 kids means. I know what my wife and I our decisions that we make are also based on what time's gymnastics. Like, I know what we have to do. And I know that at Christmas, my son and daughter had the best time at Disney World. And that might not have been Paris. And that might not have been, though it was Epcot, so they got to see the French section. But ultimately, I also know that the wanderlust that people have for adventure, one's not worse or better than another. And relationships, at whatever point we are in life, it's almost that moment, which is what I loved about the book, is, you know, if you found someone and you two were going to say, we just want to travel the world, you know what? We love kids. We love being aunts and uncles. And we've got a little dog. We're happy. I have so many friends without children who have amazing lives that are always, every time I see them on Instagram, I'm like, what country have you not visited? And then I'm like, I got to go to Target right now. And then, but at the same time, we live in my wife's hometown, Rochester, Minnesota. We literally, during the pandemic, left LA, left New York, and settled here. And I grew up in West Texas, a small town, and I so appreciate my daughter who's in preschool growing up in a small town. That's right for me. And I think that's romantic for us. It's not romantic for everybody, but one shouldn't make the other one right or wrong. And it's where we are in life. It's where, I remember, you're in college and all of a sudden, you can't think. You're so far down the road, not thinking. So the idea is dude, we went to Vegas and we just got shit-faced, and we were at a certain point, it's probably no longer cool when you're like a dad and married to have those
Not at all.
But both can be exciting, and I do appreciate when someone says they just love their small town, hometown existence. They love we go to the same place for brunch every Saturday, and there was a table set out, and they were selling Girl Scout cookies, and it was the most small town thing. If I took pictures and sent this to LA right now, everyone would be like, what movie set are you on?
Andy, final question. First of all, props to you on Rochester. I lived 2 years in Edina as a kid, so respect to you and your family for the mosquitoes and the winter. So props to your family. Okay.
By the way, still in the winter. It snowed, just finished, and this week it's going to snow twice again.
That's amazing. Final question. Just right off the topic, two-part question. What is it like getting just the accolades and the acclaim and the praise and all the good feelings regarding Heathers the musical? That's part A. And then for our listeners, can you recommend a movie or TV project from your own body of work that you would like us to see that you feel maybe a little bit underrated, or something that you really feel very close to?
Heathers has been such a wonderful journey that we've been on for a long time. We started it during She's the Man, and we were in LA, in New York, and then finally around 2018 we landed in London, and from that point on, we're still running in London on the West End. Our second UK Ireland tour is out. We did a stage capture, which people can see on Roku. Please check it out in the States, and it's in theaters in the UK and Ireland. It's really wonderful because I think that message of bullying and that message of challenges that are universal, that all kids deal with. It hasn't changed from Dan Waters' original brilliant film, 1989, and it's probably only gotten worse. So I'm always touched and moved when young people reach out to me and say, I saw Heathers, I was thinking about suicide, the show changed me, or I saw Heathers, I was dealing with bullying, I was involved. That really connects with me in a big way. That helps. So I'm forever grateful about that experience. For something that, it's always interesting. Your projects are all your children. So you always want, if you haven't seen, I always love, the first musical I did of note was called Reefer Madness, and Showtime turned it into a movie. We were nominated for multiple Emmys, and Kristen Bell and Alan Cumming and Nev Campbell, Steven Weber, Anna Gasteyer, Amy Spanger, Christian Campbell. Such a great thing. That's a movie that people sometimes are so focused on how much family entertainment I do and all of that. I'm like, go back if you can discover anything. Discover my first. Discover Reefer Madness, the musical, and I hope it'll put a smile on their face.
And I really enjoyed this film and really love your body of work. Thank you. And looking forward to another conversation. Thank you.
Always looking forward to talking to you, Greg.
All right. Take care, Andy.
Thanks, pal.